It's 2 in the morning, and John's phone lights up on the nightstand. Low balance alert. He swipes it away without reading, the way you'd wave off a fly, and falls back asleep in a house that costs more than most people earn in a decade. On paper, John is winning. $200,000 salary, leased German SUV in the driveway, a job title that photographs beautifully on LinkedIn. Now meet Elena. Same company, same Monday start, same $200,000, same everything. Except Elena sleeps fine. Her car is older and paid off. Her place is smaller, and there's a quiet, growing number in her accounts that means she could walk into her boss's office tomorrow and quit. Same income, opposite lives, and the whole difference comes down to one number on both their paychecks that neither of them circled. When you see how big that gap gets, it's going to make your stomach drop. My name is Nick, and today we're figuring out how you can make great money and still be dead broke. If you've ever looked at your income, then your bank account, and felt like the two numbers were describing two different people, hit subscribe because we're about to explain exactly why that happens. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. It's just me thinking too hard about why smart, hardworking, well-paid people keep waking up feeling broke. And before you decide this isn't about you because you're not pulling 200 grand, stay with me. This isn't a story about rich people problems. It's a trap that works exactly the same whether you make 60,000 or 600,000. John is just standing further up the same ladder you're on, and everything happening to him is waiting at the top of it for you too. So let's make sure you see it coming. Here's the reality nobody says out loud. A high income and actual wealth are two completely different machines, and most people spend their lives assuming they're the same thing. They chase the raise, land the raise, and wait to feel rich, and the feeling never shows up. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what you keep. And the gap between those two is where a shocking number of high earners quietly drown. Here's the number that should make you sit up. Depending on the survey, somewhere around half of Americans earning six figures say they're living paycheck to paycheck, not people scraping by on minimum wage, people pulling in $100,000 or more. And even at the very top, roughly 1 in 3 people earning more than $200,000 a year say the same thing. 1 in 3. Making a fifth of $1 million a year, still stretched to the last day of the month. Now, some of that is self-reported, and feeling broke and being broke aren't the same. So let's use a stricter measure. The Bank of America Institute looked at real account data, actual spending, not vibes, and found roughly 1 in 5 households earning more than $150,000 a year is burning almost everything that comes in on necessities. One of their own economists put it bluntly. You bought a house, you bought a couple of cars, and before you know it, all your money is going out to bills. That's the whole trap in one sentence. But where does the money actually go? Because $200,000 is a lot of money. So let's follow it dollar by dollar and watch it vanish. Because the first thing that happens to a big paycheck is that a huge chunk of it was never really yours. Let's talk about the part everyone underestimates, taxes. Not in the angry uncle at Thanksgiving way, but the mechanical way a large salary shrinks before it ever touches your account. Say you're single, pulling that $200,000. The federal government runs a progressive system which most people badly misread. When you cross into a higher bracket, only the dollars inside that bracket get taxed at the higher rate. So no, a raise does not secretly make you poor. Let that myth go. But here's the flip side that bites. Every additional dollar you earn at the top gets taxed at your highest rate, so John, celebrating his shiny new raise, watches a third or more of it evaporate before it lands. Then stack on payroll taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, plus a little extra Medicare surcharge once you cross $200,000 just for you high earners as a treat. Then add state income tax, and this is where geography quietly mugs you. If John lives near the coast in a high-tax state, he hands over another fat slice. If Elena had taken the same job in a state with no income tax, she'd keep thousands more of the identical salary every year. Same offer letter, wildly different money hitting the account. Add it all up, and a high earner in a high-tax state can watch 35 to 40% of a big salary disappear before he buys a single thing. So that $200,000 life, He's really budgeting around more like 130. Now, here's where I have to be fair, because it'd be easy to make this all the government's fault and move on. It isn't. So let me steelman the other side, the argument you're probably half thinking right now. Maybe John just has no discipline. He makes a fortune. After taxes, he's still clearing more than most families ever see. Plenty of people raise 3 kids on what he pays for parking. Nobody forced him into the leased SUV. By this logic, the high-income poverty trap is just a spending problem in a nicer suit, and the fix is obvious. Spend less, you spoiled genius, and there's real truth in that. Discipline matters, and we'll get to how much. But here's why it's not the whole story. The system he lives inside is engineered to turn every dollar of that raise into a fixed recurring bill, and almost every step in that process is completely reasonable. That's what makes it lethal. Nobody makes one insane decision. They make 20 sensible ones. It starts with lifestyle creep, the most polite financial disaster in America. You get a raise, you feel great, and almost immediately, without ever deciding to, you upgrade. Slightly nicer apartment, slightly nicer car. You stop checking prices on the dinner menu. Delivery instead of cooking because you've earned it, right? None of it feels reckless, like every upgrade is individually defensible. Your spending quietly rises to swallow your income, and your savings rate, the part that actually builds wealth, never moves an inch. There's a beautiful, depressing bit of research here. People swear more money fixes their problems, but ask them how long a $5,000 windfall would boost their happiness, and the answer comes back around 6 months. 6 months. Then the new thing becomes the normal thing, and you need the next upgrade just to feel the same. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. I call it a treadmill that bills you monthly. You run, the scenery never changes, and somehow you're paying a subscription for the privilege. This is the exact fork where John and Elena split. Same raises, same timing. John let his life inflate to match everyone. Elena, and she's not more virtuous or a better person, did one quietly radical thing. Every time her income went up, she banked most of the raise before her lifestyle noticed. She kept living like the version of herself from 2 raises ago. That's the entire trick, and it's worth more than any stock tip you'll ever hear. And here's what that trick actually buys her. So she's not just the person who says no to everything. Picture Elena, a few years in. Her manager reorganizes the team under someone insufferable, the kind of boss who schedules meetings to prepare for meetings. John would have to smile and eat it because he needs the next paycheck to clear, or the whole tower of auto pays comes down. Elena just books a 2-week trip, comes back, and calmly starts interviewing somewhere better because the number in her accounts means her job is a choice, not a hostage situation. That's what the boring spreadsheet really is. Not restriction, the power to walk away, the one thing John can't buy at any salary. Now let me show you the ground John is standing on. A big salary in the wrong zip code is a magic trick where the money vanishes and nobody's even impressed. John lives in one of those coastal metros where a starter home has a 7-figure price tag and a homeowners association with strong opinions about your mailbox. In some of these cities, a household pulling $250,000 still lands squarely in the statistical middle class. Read that again. $250,000 a year, middle class, the income is real. The life it buys is a decent apartment and a reasonable commute. Then come the fixed costs, and this is the part that turns a high income into a cage. Because John didn't just spend money, he committed to spending money on a schedule for years. There's the mortgage on the 7-figure house. If he's got a kid, daycare in his metro runs around $1,800 a month per child, which is not a typo, and there is not a single state in this country where infant care meets the government's own definition of affordable. Not one. Then there's the car. The average new car payment in America is now around $750 a month, and more than 1 in 6 new buyers are signing up for over $1,000 a month. $1,000 monthly. For a depreciating pile of metal that loses value the second it leaves the lot. John has 2 of those in the driveway because of course he does. And here's the moment the cage clicks shut. Last spring, John's stock grants finally vested $100,000, real money, his name on it. For about a day, he felt rich. Then he did the math. not liquid for another year, a chunk straight back to taxes and the rest spoken for before it landed, the roof, the property tax bill, the balance on one of the cars. So he closed the laptop and told his kid they couldn't swing summer camp this year. On $200,000 a year with $100,000 in stock sitting right there, he said no to a summer camp. That's not a man who's bad with money. That's a man whose money is all pointing at something before he wakes up. Every one of those costs is defensible. The house is in a good school district. The car is safe. But add them up, and John has converted his enormous income into an enormous burn rate. His money isn't his anymore. He's a very well-paid courier, moving cash from his employer to a list of people he owes. That's what golden handcuffs really are, not a metaphor. A monthly autopay, which brings us to the illusion at the center of it. From the outside, John looks rich, great house, great cars, great title, but rich on paper and rich are not the same thing, and confusing them will quietly wreck you. Let me show you the number that actually matters, the one nobody puts in their bio: net worth. Everything you own minus everything you owe. And here's a magic trick: the numbers play on you. Look up the average net worth of an American household and you get something north of $1 million. So you assume everyone's secretly loaded, but that average is a liar. A handful of billionaires walk into a bar and everyone's average net worth is technically $100 million. Doesn't mean you can buy around. The number that tells the truth is the median, the person in the middle sitting on around a couple $100,000, most of it trapped in home equity they can't spend without selling the roof over their head. Even the top 10% of earners, the biggest incomes in the country, typically have a few million, not the private jet fantasy the salary whispers about. And a big chunk of even that is what I'd call phantom wealth. It looks incredible on a balance sheet and does nothing for you today. Home equity you can't touch. Retirement accounts you can't crack for 20 years without a penalty. Stock grants that haven't vested or that vested and got swallowed before lunch, asked John. It's real, sort of, eventually, but you can't eat a spreadsheet and you can't hand the emergency room a slice of your home equity. There's an old idea from The Millionaire Next Door that nails it. The real millionaires were rarely the flashy ones. They were the boring people in modest houses driving paid-off trucks. The least everything crowd who looked rich often had almost nothing behind the curtain. The authors gave them a name: under-accumulators of wealth, high income, low net worth, a club John is, at this very moment, the president of. So we've followed the money all the way down, and what's left is the one number that decides your entire financial life. Remember, back at 2 a.m, I said there was one number on both their paychecks, neither of them circled. Here it is. Your savings rate, the percentage of what you earn that you actually keep and put to work. And I'm about to show you, with real math, exactly how big that stomach drop gap gets. Take John and Elena, same $200,000 income. John, after all his beautifully reasonable upgrades, saves about 5%. Elena, living like her past self, saves 20%. That's the only difference. Now, run it forward 30 years at a normal, unremarkable market return of around 7%. John, at 5%, ends up with roughly $900,000, which sounds fine right up until you see the other number. Elena, at 20%, same salary, same market, same everything, ends up with around $3.8 million. The gap between them is nearly $3 million. $3 million. Between two people who earned identical paychecks and lived through identical markets. The only thing that changed was the one number neither of them noticed on day one. John didn't get unlucky. Elena didn't get a secret bonus. She just kept a bigger slice of the same pie, and compounding did the rest quietly for decades while nobody was watching. And look, if you're running this math on your own life and feeling a little sick, this is exactly what we work through together in our school community. I'll drop the link below. It's full of people running these exact numbers on their own paychecks, comparing notes and quietly climbing out of the John category 1 month at a time. No shame, no gurus posing next to rented Lamborghinis, just the math and people who actually want to do it. Because here's what the trap feels like from the inside, and it has nothing to do with being poor. It feels like earning more than you ever dreamed you would and still doing mental math in the grocery store. It feels like a great job title and everyone assuming you've got it figured out because of where you live and what you drive, while you privately wonder how you'd survive 2 months without a paycheck. That's the specific cruelty of this one. You're not allowed to complain because on paper you won, but paper doesn't pay rent. And then there's the part that lives entirely in your head, which might be the most expensive part of all, because even if John fixed everything tomorrow, he'd still have to fight the one enemy no raise can beat: comparison. There's real research showing that when the people around you earn more, your own happiness drops, even when your income hasn't moved at all. Your neighbor's new addition literally makes you feel poor. And the trap inside the trap is that the finish line runs away from you. Surveys keep asking Americans how much it takes to feel wealthy, and the number just keeps climbing, over $4 million in the priciest cities. So John hits the level he dreamed about and finds his reference group climbed right along with him. The people he measures himself against now also make more. Rich is always one rung up. It's a ladder with no top, and he is exhausted. And this is the part that reaches all the way back down to you, whatever you earn, because your version of that ladder has the same missing top. The neighbor, the group chat, the guy with the boat, same trap, smaller numbers. So how do you actually climb out? Because I refuse to just describe the hole in loving detail and then wave goodbye. First, and this is the whole game, fix your savings rate before you fix anything else. Not your income, your savings rate. It's the single number that separates John from Elena, and it's the one thing fully inside your control. Bank your next raise before your lifestyle finds out it exists. Like hiding the good snacks from yourself in the back of the cupboard. Automate the transfer so it happens before you can talk yourself out of it. Let your savings rate climb as your income climbs, instead of standing frozen while your spending sprints ahead. Second, guard against fixed cost lock-in like your future depends on it, because it quietly does. The mortgage, the car payments, the tuition, the zip code, those are the golden handcuffs, and handcuffs don't care how nice the bracelet is. Keep your fixed costs to a controlled slice of your take-home, and you protect the one thing a big income is supposed to buy you. Options: the power to say no. The 2-week trip then quit energy Elena has, and John pawned off one upgrade at a time. And third, change the scoreboard. Stop measuring your life by your salary, because salary is just the water pressure in the pipe. What matters is how much you actually catch in the bucket. Track your net worth, and better yet, your liquid net worth, the money you could actually put your hands on if life kicked in your door next Tuesday. That number, not your paycheck, is the real measure of whether you're free or just extremely well paid. And unlike your salary, it's a number nobody can take back in a layoff. So let's go back to John and Elena one last time. Same desk, same $200,000, 10 years in, John still looks like the winner, better car, bigger house, a title that photographs great. But Elena is the one who can walk out the door whenever she wants, because the boring number she's been quietly building is finally big enough to catch her. John is rich on paper and broke in reality. Elena looks completely ordinary and is quietly, genuinely free. And that's the work we keep doing over in our school community, turning ordinary paychecks into that kind of freedom. Here's what I need you to walk away with. The difference between them was never the salary, it wasn't luck, and it wasn't some secret nobody told you. It was one number, the one they both ignored at 2 a.m. on day one, and the genuinely good news is you can change it starting with your very next paycheck. A big income buys a life that looks incredible from the outside. It cannot buy you freedom. Only the number you keep can do that. The raise was never the prize. What you keep is the prize, and nobody, not the bank, not the dealership, not the guy swiping away a low balance alert at 2 a.m, is ever going to circle that number for you. You have to circle it yourself.